sitting in the Hall of Fame, and above me is the actual Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And there's a very small group of artists that have been honored within that hall. You'll see Paul McCartney, Depeche Mode, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, amazing songwriters. And you are now joining them forever in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And um, how, do, how does it feel when you hear that?
Well, it's so personal because it's not going to be that important to anyone else. I mean, it's sort of nice for other people to, if they like me, to say, "Oh, I'm with Carly Simon," just in the way that it's great for me to be with Todd Rundgren or Bob Dylan or the Doobie Brothers or
Yeah.
Robert Johnson or I mean, so many. I can't even begin to tell you how many people are my favorites. It's like you join a list of your favorite singers, and what does it mean? You're up there in, it's a collection of names, but it's an honor, and it's like any other honor. You've got something to show for it in your dreams for the rest of your life. You're going to be dreaming about it, and you're going to feel maybe silently proud. You pat yourself on the back.
That's beautiful. And it's not for one hit record or having a song in a soundtrack that won an award. This is the Lifetime Achievement Award in recognition of your writing, in recognition of your performance, and that you've impacted so many others. Um, what
Well, that's
what
it is such an honor, and I've heard some nice things that people said about me when they were sort of rooting for me or trying to build a case for me or whatever, or give, it's just it's been so nice. It's always nice to be honored by your peers, and of course then there are all those fan votes too. So
yeah.
it's just it gives you more than just a little trickle of pride down your spine.
Yeah. Hey, I'm curious, when you heard the news from your about being elected, who did you think? Did you think of anybody, and who was it if you did?
I thought about Richard Perry because Richard Perry is, well, he was the person along with Mick Jagger who told me that I was a rock and roll singer and not just a folky with butter singing about butterflies and hilltops, but that I could really wallop a punch or punch a wallop. Which one do you do? And when I first met with Richard and he wanted to produce my album after I'd done Anticipation, which was one of my favorite albums with Paul Samuel Smith, but it wasn't it wasn't a rock and roll record. And Richard said, you are a rock. You can really do rock and roll. And then when I got to London and we began recording the No Secrets album, which had You're So Vain on it, he proved me right. And Mick Jagger was had already said, you're really rock and roll. You're more rock and roll than you are folk or jazz. And so the two of them together, we just, I don't think I would have done it without their confidence in me.
Yeah. Oh,
But then, but then I remember also thinking that when I got to London and Richard was putting all of the songs that I had written in that sort of vein of rock and roll and taking it out of the gentler approach of my earlier days. At first, I thought, well, all of these songs are going to the wrong college. They don't belong in this particular college of rock and roll. But then he showed me that just about every song that I'd written did belong there. It just was the approach and the sound of my voice and the amount of confidence that I gave to a single line and playing the piano and guitar at the same time.
well, we're grateful that he had that vision and that you embraced it and chased it. You made wonderful, wonderful, impactful music.
Thank you. I'm so fantastically appreciative that I'm there. And when I think about Dionne Warwick, who was nominated but still not in, I think about how you can be great and still not in.
Yeah.
And I really wanted Dionne Warwick to be in there, but then again, there's not one person who did get in that I didn't want to get in. So I'm so happy to share the spotlight.
Well, well deserved. And the ballot themselves, everybody's amazing on the ballot, and they can't all be selected at that moment. But you were one of those selected this year. And is there any other thing that you might want to add about what it means to be to receive this honor?
Oh, another thought I had when I found out is the whole business with Dolly Parton trying to get out of it by saying by demurring and saying that she wasn't really a rock and roll singer. I certainly had those thoughts too. And I thought maybe I would have done that if Dolly hadn't already done it, but you can't have. Didn't want to look like a follower. I didn't want to look like, well, I'm just a little girl singing "Ring Around a Rosie," so don't put me in. But I was surprised but not surprised that she reneged. But I'm awfully glad that she got in because she certainly deserves it.
Yeah, you're both terrific. You're both great writers. You're both great performers, and you a lot of people spent a lot of nights listening to both your music, I believe, um, and carried it with them. So it's great you'll be together at the induction ceremony itself in Los Angeles next November.
I forgot to tell you two people who were very instrumental in the way I feel about rock and roll, and that would be actually three. One is Clive Davis, who was very important to me believing in myself as a rock and roll singer, and Jack Holzman, especially Jack, who was the first person to believe in me as a singer, and when I first had my first demo tape and I sent it around, nobody could figure out who I was. Nobody. Jerry Ragavoy said, but I like her, but I don't know who she is. I don't know if she's a jazz singer or a Broadway writer or a folk singer or a rock and roll singer. So I don't know where to put her. So I can't sign her. And so Jack Holzman was able to see what he wanted to see and was able to, to accept me. Nobody at Elektra Records wanted me except Jack. Jack overrode them and said, no, I see something in her.
Well, you know what? He had the ear, didn't he? For you and a number of other artists, and he is inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for all the great things he did with None Such, and then with Elektra, and now you're joining him. So it's a fun reunion after all this time.
Yeah, the producers and also the drummers. I couldn't be rock and roll without Rick Marotta and Russ Kunkel and Steve Gadd and Jim Keltner and Jim Gordon. And those were the days when Richard Perry we were recording at Trident Studio in London, and Richard had the wherewithal to be able to fly Jim Gordon back for one fill. So, and then fly him back to LA and fly Jim Keltner in for the rest of the song.
In closing, I'm going to say once again, congratulations. We're so honored that you're inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.